Hello everyone, this is Father Dima from Bucharest, Romania. What conclusion do you reach if you connect the name of this Sunday, the Sunday of the expulsion of Adam from paradise, with the Gospel reading appointed for today? The connection is simple. If you live what today's Gospel teaches, you return to paradise. But if you refuse it, you exile yourself from paradise all over again. In other words, through your behavior, you reaffirm your way of thinking. You reaffirm your attachments. And as your thinking is, as your desires are, so your life will be. The Gospel reading is short, just a few essential verses from Matthew chapter 6. If you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. When you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you may not be seen by others as fasting, but by your Father who is in secret. And do not gather for yourself treasures on earth, but lay up for yourself treasures in heaven. In this Gospel, we discover a triptych of virtues. First of all, forgive so that you may be forgiven. Second, fast with discretion. And more broadly, keep discretion in your spiritual life. And third, set your hierarchy of values correctly. Give priority to what is unseen, which is infinitely more valuable than what's visible. Now, is that enough? If I will do all these three things, will that be enough? You know, even the way we ask that question, is it enough? It is not the best way to formulate. It turns the spiritual life into a checklist, as if we were trying to meet a minimum requirement. A more adequate answer would be this. Practice these three things, and once you begin to live them, many other good things will follow naturally in your life. And now, more deeply, the first theme of today's Gospel is forgiveness. If you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. The foundational principle here seems to be mirroring. And honestly, it is a surprising symmetry because it operates on two very different levels. The level of the human person and the level of God Himself. Yet the principle remains: human action is meant to reflect divine action. If God forgives you, then you, in turn, must forgive others. But notice something: Christ reverses the sentence. It no longer sounds like a simple mirroring of God's goodness and forgiveness. It's not like a spontaneous imitation. It sounds like a condition. Only if you forgive will God forgive you. Only if. And that raises an uncomfortable question. You're not God, so why are you being asked to behave like Him? To answer that, I want you to remember that unfortunate line, the subtle, cunning trap in paradise. The serpent says to the first humans this: if you eat of it, you will be like God. You will be like God, knowing good and evil. That was the promise. You will not die. You will be like God. And immediately, the deeper question emerges: is it actually wrong to want to be like God? Why did this temptation seem attractive in the first place? Here's why. And you will see there's almost nothing at first glance to condemn in their line of thinking. The first people in paradise, they knew they had been created in the image of God. They were aware that their destiny, their fundamental vocation, was to grow into His likeness. In other words, to become like God, to become like Him, like the Creator. their part was true. It was not a lie. So what was the problem? The problem was not the desire itself. The problem was they did not choose the right path to become like God. You see, the desire to be like God is woven into our very nature. For example, the desire to live forever. Many people feel it, although often in a distorted way, as a wish to prolong indefinitely the biological condition they have right now. Or the desire to surpass every limit in knowledge, in strength, in physical strength, in speed, in achievement. Humans always want to become unlimited. So the longing to be like God is profoundly true. To have God's attributes. It corresponds to the Creator's intention for us. But it was diverted. Because becoming like God cannot happen in secret, through cunning, through shortcuts. You do not become like God by grabbing a miraculous fruit. No, you become like God by walking a far more demanding road. You need to understand and remember this. There's within us a powerful desire to be much more than we currently are. To be much more than we currently are. Perhaps even more than our strength can sustain. We in Romania have an expression coming from a writer who lived 2 centuries ago. I feel enormously and I see monstrously. In other words, it's a completely and utterly oversized aspiration. And it is oversized because that aspiration is paired with very limited capacity to assimilate reality and to handle it wisely. But the desire itself is normal. It's legitimate. In fact, it is planted deep within our being by our Creator. And now let us return to the gospel of this Sunday. Why do we forgive? We forgive because forgiveness is God's right and privilege, and we desire to be like God. But how should we understand this negative symmetry? If you do not forgive, God will not forgive you. Is it supposed to sound that sharp? Because God is love. So why does His forgiveness for me appear to come with a condition attached? Couldn't He simply forgive us even if we are slower, more hesitant, less generous when it's our turn to forgive those who have wronged us? Well, to be honest, I don't think this is a place where we should try to out-argue Christ. Maybe the first step is simply to take His words as they stand, not to dissect them as if they hide some secret loophole, not to soften them artificially, just to receive them like that. If you do not forgive, neither will your Father forgive you. It's clear, it's concise, it's precise. You want to be with God? Forgive. You cannot forgive? Then you cannot be with God. And now let me move to another major theme in today's gospel. The Heavenly Father who is in secret, in a hidden place, and who sees what you do in secret, both the good and the less good. In Matthew chapter 6, this theme appears 3 times, no less than 3 times, in 3 different contexts. Your charity should be made in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. When you pray, go into your room, shut the door, and pray in secret, and your Father who is in secret will reward you. And today's verse, when you fast in secret, and your Father who is in secret will reward you. As a general rule, when something in Bible is repeated 3 times in the same chapter, it is not an accident. If this secret place appears so insistently, it must be important. So, what does it mean that the Father is in secret and sees what you do in secret? The first meaning is simple. In secret means with discretion. Discretion. Because discretion is what makes a spiritual act authentic and sincere. If something is done mainly to be seen and admired by others, then we have reason to question its authenticity. For example, today is fashionable to display your religious life on social media. Many people think it's cool to show that they are believers, true believers, serious, committed Christians. But faith is not meant to become a public performance. To put it simply, if you are a believer, you don't need to hide it, but you also don't need to constantly broadcast how spiritual you are. The expression in secret, in hidden place, has also another and deeper meaning. The hidden place is the place of the heart. There, in your depths, two things happen. First of all, there, you're sincere and real. You're stripped of every shell and mask. And second, that is precisely where God is at work. When you pray in secret in your heart, you meet God in prayer in your heart. When you give in secret, it is the intention of your heart that calls upon God. When you fast inwardly, something deeper happens. The heart is cleansed of disordered desires and attachments, and then, if I may put it that way, in the space that it is freed, God comes. Although even that's not quite accurate, because without His presence, you would not be able to purify your heart in the first place. Or perhaps we should think of it this way. The hidden place is the place where God is already working. You know, like yeast active in the dough, to use the gospel image, or like a seed alive beneath the soil. Which means that when you enter your hidden place, you encounter there God, who is already there. He is already alive within your heart. My brothers and sisters, the great Lent begins. May it be for you a season of growth and renewal. May the Lord bless us all.